This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good. So we got started last week, and let's see, we were 41, right? Electricity on Shabbos. Okay, so actually, 41 was opening things to do before Shabbos, and we had opening cans and food packages. Right? What's the issue over there? What's the issue that we have over there? Making a vessel, right? And therefore, we don't want to make a vessel on Shabbos. And we just, right? So a cork on a bottle, is that an issue? Not an issue. Why is that not an issue? It's just in the way. You have a cork, you have a bottle, it got put in, we take it out. You have one of these vacuum packed whatever jars of whatever it might be. You open it up, you hear the air go in, very good. Right? It was a cover, it was a glass jar, it's still a cover, it's still a glass jar. Why is a can different?
Solid, and you're actually cutting open the top.
Right, you're cutting through. If theoretically, I'm not sure how they make the can. I think they make the cans probably they put the thing on top, and then they press it down on top of it. If theoretically you could unpress it and lift out that thing, so then that would not be such an issue. But when you're cutting through, basically you are now creating a vessel. So if you open up before Shabbos, we're good to go. What's a workaround?
Poking a hole in the bottom.
Yeah, right. So you first start to open on the bottom. It won't open well. You don't care as long as it has a hole in the bottom. Basically, now when you open the top, you don't have a kli, right? How about bottles? Yes.
What about those like the Easy Pop can?
Yeah, good question. Good question.
I would think vessel.
I don't think so.
No.
I think the Easy Pop there. I think that's more like undoing the side.
Or like a soda can.
Yeah, the soda can is definitely not a problem. Okay, I'm pretty sure the easy the pull tab off the top, right? That is not going to be an issue. I think similar to if you could theoretically undo the press around and take off the cover. Basically, that was just added on, right? That was just added on, or was it?
It does like curl.
Yeah. I'm not sure actually. Let me look into that. Okay, that's a good point, Shelby. I'm not sure about that. Cans of soda definitely not a problem, right? Even though I know I'm dating myself. Even the old when you pull off the tab, right now you just kind of push it in and it goes down. So pull off the tab. Even that was not an issue. Yeah, let me look into that more. Okay. Now, when it comes to bottles, right? So bottles of soda. So there are those that say bottles are a problem because here, it says over here, wine bottles and soda bottles with screw tops in which a ring breaks off should preferably be opened before Shabbos. Okay. Now the issue over there is as follows, according to my understanding of how these things are done. Okay. When you have the regular plastic cover on the soda bottle, that was a cap, right? Taking off now, so it gets twisted on a certain way, and and then when you try to take it off, the ring gets caught on the bottom. Okay, but taking off the ring is not turning it into a cap. It was a cap, and it's still a cap, right? With or without that ring. Therefore, there are those that don't. I do open up soda bottles. I don't drink soda, but theoretically, I would open up soda bottles on Shabbos. Not an issue. When you have wine bottles with a cap on top, not the cork. Thank you. Not the cork. When you have a cap, that is different, and that one should avoid doing. Why is that? Because that, as far as I understand, it was a disc, and then it went over the bottle, and then it got pressed down into a cap. So it was never a cap, right? It was never an independent cap. It's only over there. And once you break it off, now for the first time, we have a usable, recappable implement, we'll call it. Okay. So there too, like it's interesting. You don't find too many wine bottles with caps anymore. Maybe very inexpensive ones. I don't know.
The cheap bottles.
Yeah.
They do.
Okay.
Do you just mean like the twist offs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there, what you want to do is just puncture it with a fork, and then same principle as the can. Okay. Electricity on Shabbos, page 41. Okay. Many people leave some lights on from before Shabbos, left to Shabbos. Some also use a Shabbos clock, turn lights on and off in preset times. The Shabbos clock must be set before Shabbos. Okay. So that's all pretty simple. Now we have these wonderful Shabbos lamps. You guys familiar with the Shabbos lamps? Right? So basically the Shabbos lamp, it's right, because if you're leaving on a lamp, right, is it going off at the right time, not the right time, right? So the Shabbos lamp is basically, there are two types. There's one with a cylinder that turns around, right, opens or closes. Basically, the light is on the whole time, and either it's like having a closet light open on, and you either open the closet door or you close the closet door. No problem in opening and closing a closet door, right? So too, you twist that, either the light shines through or doesn't shine, or it's blocked, right? We have ones that are these LED like this with a little cap here, and you slide the cap up or slide the cap down, stays on the whole time, and it's an absolute pleasure. Refrigerators, okay. How about just opening a refrigerator on Shabbos? What might be the problems of opening up a refrigerator on Shabbos? Okay, the light, and there might be another problem. Right, the cooling system. Meaning by my opening up the refrigerator, what's going to happen? The temperature's going to go up, right? And that may kick off the compressor to get it going again. Okay? That normative halacha is, right, okay, he writes here there are different opinions concerning when electric refrigerator can be open on Shabbos. Some say at any time, others say only when it's running. Okay, typically, I would say normative halacha is you can open and close a refrigerator with reckless abandon, right, as opposed to an oven, and we'll discuss why that is. Okay. Right? When you open a refrigerator, it does not automatically turn on that compressor. After a certain period of time, it will or might go on, but it's not something that's going to happen automatically. Why is that? Well, the temperature in the house is, let's say, about 70, and the temperature in the fridge is about 37, 38. So you have a disparity of about 32 degrees, right? It takes a while for it to get warmed up enough for the compressor to go on to have the cooling elements working. Whereas if you have an oven that is on, okay, and we'll come to that about food in an oven on Shabbos is somewhat problematic. If the oven is on, it's definitely problematic. Okay, why is that? Because when you open the door, immediately what happens when you open the door? The fire fires up. Why? Because once again, your house is about 70 and the oven is about 350. So you have a disparity of 280 degrees. So when you open up that oven door, very quickly that is shooting well down beneath the 350 is trying to maintain. So the fires go on automatically. Okay? But there is also the issue of the light in the fridge. Opening the fridge and that automatically turning on the light, that is a problem. We can't do that. You're turning on the light. That happens automatically. So how do we get around that? Okay, so either one can loosen the light, right? Remove the light. Or what one can do is, well, the older fridges have a little button by the door there. When you open it up, that gets depressed and that turns the light on. When you close the fridge, that button gets closed and the light goes off. a little bit of duct tape to keep it pressed in. That way it always thinks the door is closed and the light doesn't go on. That's the easy method with the older fridges. Many of the newer fridges, first of all, you'll be amazed how many fridges have a Shabbat mode.
Oh, wow.
A Shabbat mode. Our fridge has a Shabbat mode. We hold down two buttons and it flashes Shabbat. The light goes off and stays off. Okay? Now, why is it worthwhile? I mean, what percentage of refrigerator buyers are concerned about a Shabbat mode? Very, very, very small percent. So why is it worthwhile for these manufacturers? Ovens have Shabbat modes and refrigerators have Shabbat modes. Why is it worthwhile for these massive companies to have a Shabbat mode? I'm sorry?
Because people buy double.
What do you mean?
Like 2 ovens, 2 fridges.
Okay. But again, the percentage of those who care about this is so small. But the truth is, everything now is so programmed that it's no skin off their back, right? They're not making it any differently. They're just putting in this added feature that you hold down these 2 buttons. That happens. Hold on, right? So hold on these 2 buttons, the light goes off. Okay, that'll make some people happy, and the people will buy the fridge because of that. Why not? So many have Shabbat modes.
I'm thinking maybe the owner or the designer probably Jewish too.
Well, could be, right? Now, but those that don't have Shabbat modes and the newer fridges which don't have that button there that gets depressed for the light to go off and on. So how do they work? So the way it works is there is a magnet in the door. And when the door is closed, that magnetizes another magnet on the inside, on the base itself, and the light goes off. Okay? When you open the door, it gets demagnetized and the light goes on. Right? So that's why Natalie and I, in our carry-on, we carry magnets. Okay? And basically, you play with it, you move the magnet on top over there, and you see, oh, the light just went off. And that's where you keep the magnet over Shabbos. Okay? That's how they work. It was interesting. We had an interesting use for our cell phone. We were in Israel, we were staying at this little rental place, right? And the light was going on. So we called them and they came and it seemed that he had gotten it to the light to stay off, but I wasn't sure. So I put my phone on video into the fridge and I closed the fridge, right? And then, right? And we saw that, I forget exactly how, but we saw that it was going on and off as a result of our opening the door. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to remember. Not to ask Natalie why we needed the video, but yeah, whatever it was. So this is something to be aware of, right? When going and staying at a hotel or something like that, right? So there you have another issue. Well, there the refrigerator is usually a very small fridge, doesn't have a light, not an issue, right? The room key at a hotel on Shabbos, right? That's a problem, right? Hotels all have these electronic room key that opens the door. So there, what we do is we put our valuables into the safe. We put a little piece of cardboard over there so the door closes but doesn't actually engage. And then we hang the do not disturb on the door. And that way we close the door, right? If anyone comes and pushes the door, right, which most people don't go around doing at a hotel, if someone would push the door, it would open. And then if they want my underwear, they can have it. That's basically all that'll be available for them. But that's what we do, and it has worked, and has not been an issue. Also, in hotel rooms, sometimes you do have an issue. You have motion detectors for the lights, right? So if that's the case, you just want to put something on top of it so that it won't sense beforehand.
I was gonna ask you, because we have it's like a Nest, I think it's the AC controller.
Mm-hmm.
If you, it's motion sensor, like if you walk by, it'll turn on, like
Okay.
it'll light up, it'll display. Not necessarily turn the air on, but it'll light up.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you walk by it and it's not at the temperature it needs to be at, it will the entire thing.
Yeah. Okay. So there, we had that. We just put a little piece of tape over the little eye there, so that when you walk in front, it doesn't activate.
So what do you do in the summer? Because we've covered it, and so when it's really really warm, it won't come on at all, even though it's.
Oh, because they think no one's there.
Right. So it's down to
So
a lower temperature.
We put something in front of it, not just tape, but like something big.
Mm.
So just invest in fans that we don't
Mm.
turn on before Shabbat.
I'm sorry?
Do we invest in fans or something? Because I thought if we covered it and we put it down to 65, it's it's gonna be chilly for Shabbat, but at least we're not hot, right?
Exactly.
But it warmed up.
Then it won't. Once it gets down, it just won't come back on, even though the temperature.
Since there's no motion.
Yeah.
Since it doesn't detect any motion.
And we tried to
Set
take it off of
timers,
this mode.
do
And it's
everything.
just an eco device or something. It just.
Now, sometimes these have an additional sensor you could put into a different room,
Okay.
right? And that's not, and those sensors are not motion activated. They're just temperature activated. Meaning, let's say in a 2-story home, very often, right, the downstairs is a lot cooler than the upstairs. So you might want the thermostat to go according to the temperature upstairs instead of downstairs. So there is an added sensor that you can put in a different room that's not motion activated. Yeah. Now, another interesting thing that we have, when you're walking, crossing Culver, smile. You're on candid camera, right? Whenever you walk around Irvine, you're on camera. I walk past my neighbor, right, on Shabbos. He has a motion sensor. His light goes on, right? So in all of these situations, right, and the fact is, even if you do the little magnet thing on the refrigerator, right, when you open the door, there probably are internally some things going on, right? Sometimes there's a little light. So what you do then is you put a tape over the light, right? So what does that accomplish? You don't see it. What does that mean? It's still happening. Well, that's called a psik resha. It's happening, and you don't want it to happen. I don't want my neighbor's light to go on, right? I don't care if they're filling me as I cross Culver. So that's something that's happening beyond my control, and I'm getting no benefit from it. So therefore, right, in our very technological world, right, otherwise, so you'll stay in the house like this without moving the whole time, right? So the halachic basis is a psik resha. Psik resha, the term we'll come to, which is an automatic consequence, right? An unavoidable automatic consequence when it is something that you have no interest in, right? So then we can be lenient as in those cases. Okay. It was interesting. I was part of a panel today at a class in UCI, and it was a class on the development of halacha and the different branches of Judaism. It was myself and a Reform rabbi. Right? So one of the points that I made is halacha doesn't change, but at the same time, it has to be applied to situations that didn't exist when the halacha was established. Right? In the time of the Gemara, there was no electricity. Right? So all of these new discoveries had to be viewed through the prism of halacha, and to see how would it be viewed and how we deal with it. There are those that wanted to say, when electricity was first coming out, that on Yom Tov you could turn on lights. At least you could turn on incandescent lights. Why? What would the argument be why on Yom Tov, right? That's not the halacha. But why could the argument be made, or what argument could be made that on Yom Tov you should be able to turn on at least an incandescent light? So what are we allowed to do on Yom Tov that we can't do on Shabbos?
No, not light a fire.
Pass a fire,
Thank you.
right? Not a pacifier, but pass a fire from one place to another, right? So we can't ignite a flame, we can't extinguish a flame, but we can utilize an existing flame, and we can pass an existing flame from one place to another, right? That's why on Yom Tov we're allowed to cook, right? And when it comes to lighting candles on Yom Tov, we'll take from a 3 or 7 day candle you burn an existing flame, take the match, light it, use it to light our Yom Tov candles, and then not extinguish it, just put it down a piece of aluminum foil and let it self-extinguish, right? So the argument could be made that when it comes to electricity on Yom Tov, what are you doing? You're extending the fire, so to speak, electricity, to the filament in the incandescent light, and that then turns white hot, and that's what gives us the light from an incandescent light. So the argument could be made, but halacha viewed it in a different manner. They viewed that as a sort of a almost like a virtual binyan building closing, because what you're doing is you're closing the circuit. So you are completing that, and that is why we don't use electricity on Shabbos, certainly, and even on Yom Tov when we do not do that. Right? Important note on the bottom of 41, when Yom Tov precedes or follows Shabbos, when Yom Tov is observed for 2 consecutive days, candles for the candle lighting of the second day should be prepared beforehand. On those days, okay, to melt the bottom of the candle, okay, or prepare the wick by temporarily lighting it, okay. Yeah, so there, right, you get yourself either a 3 or a 7 day candle, and that way you're good to go on Yom Tov. Okay, 42. Again, this is all still talking about things to do before Shabbos, before we even hit Shabbos itself. Okay, muktzah objects. What is muktzah?
Something that you don't move.
Okay. Muktzah is something that we're not allowed to move on Shabbos. The word muktzah comes from it is removed. It's removed from the realm of my usage. And therefore, only things that are prepared for Shabbos usage can I use on Shabbos. Something that is removed from the realm of usage on Shabbos, I can't use on Shabbos. Now, a spoon or a fork is not the least bit removed. That's something that's called a kli, a vessel or a tool, that its usage is perfectly permitted on Shabbos. A hammer is a kli, it's a vessel, a tool, that its main usage is not permitted on Shabbos. Its main usage would be driving nails in. That would be binyan, that would be building. You can't do that on Shabbos. But I could use it for a permitted usage on Shabbos. I can't find my nutcracker, so I want to use that to crack open a nut. Then I can use that. Certain things like a random stone or piece of wood in the garden, that I can't use at all, even to crack open my nut, because that's completely removed from my thinking. So this is a whole extensive topic. But certainly things, money, pens, your wallet, cell phone, all of these things that are clearly muktzah, right, should be put away before Shabbos, right, and in a way that it's not going to get moved. Okay. Interesting, if a man uses the same talit for both Shabbos and weekdays, he should remove his tefillin from the talis bag before Shabbos to prevent moving them on Shabbos. We don't wear tefillin on Shabbos, therefore they are muktzah going in, and therefore you want to avoid moving that, okay? And, right, you want to, 43, check the pockets that you're wearing, right? So you're not going to accidentally carry any item into the public domain on Shabbos. Right? We have the Eruv. What is an Eruv, my friends?
Like the boundary.
Okay, right? Eruv comes from the word arev, which means to combine, to mix in. What an Eruv does is, by my having matzah in the office for everyone to partake of, and by enclosing the area, so therefore we've mixed everyone into one single domain. And therefore, I'm not carrying from private domain into public domain. I'm carrying all within this big private domain. Okay? So when there is no Eruv, then before Shabbos, you want to make sure to check your pockets, things like that you won't be carrying things out. And when there is an Eruv, you want to be careful not to have anything muktzah in the pockets. Okay. Baby care, medical treatment. Okay, a baby in the house. Okay, prepare before Shabbos, right? Okay, if one knows when that medical treatment will be necessary on Shabbos, one should ask a rabbi how to comply with the doctor's permission instruction. Okay, those are particular situations that we deal with when they come up. Have you taken Maser? 45. Have you made an Eruv? Then light the candles. This actually is part of the davening that we say Friday night. It's one of the Mishnayot that we say. As Shabbos draws near, one should gently urge one's family to complete the Shabbos preparations and finish doing prohibited work before Shabbos. As sages said, one should say 3 things in the house before it gets dark. Have you taken Maser? That's tithing the produce. That happens in Israel, not over here. Have you made an Eruv? Okay, that also, we don't make our own personal Eruv, right? Then light the candles, right? I mentioned to you, I think last time, the story of a person came to complain to a great rabbi that his wife doesn't get things done. It's really crazy before Shabbos, and not everything is done on time. What was his response? Pick up a broom. Pick up a broom and help. Don't complain. She obviously needs help. Help. Okay. Okay, very good. Let us go now to chapter 3. Okay? The Shabbos candles. Yes, Orly.
So, the apartment building that we live in, like it's massive, would that be considered an Eruv or only the apartment that we live in?
Only your apartment. Yeah. Yeah, only your apartment. The problem being that that is owned. You see, when you go to a hotel, there one can carry in the hotel because there it's all one owner, right? It is, even though I have the room for a night, they could oust me at any point, right? Apartment, all right, and also it's all in a building. But you, everything's the hallways are inside, the outside, right? Yeah, right. But there, even in the case that would all be inside, you still have an issue in that there are all these different owners. Whereas when you're renting it, you have your lease. They can't just move you along. Yeah.
I mean, Irvine Company owns it.
Yes, yes, but you have a certain degree of ownership by your renting of it, more than a night at a hotel. Yeah.
So for the Shabbos candles, we only like 2 of them, not based on how many people in the house, right?
Okay, so we'll come to that. Okay. Well, there's halachically one lights a minimum of 2 candles. Okay. There is a custom that for each additional person in the house, an additional candle is lit. The idea being that each person brings light, brings added light into the world, into the home. Okay, so I would say, right, lighting candles You should light for Adam also.
Okay.
Right? So you would light 3. Yeah.
I don't know that he's like, I'll do it, and then he does this. I said, let me do it because I know it's my turn.
Okay.
Big one.
All right. Okay. Did you have a question or something before we go forward? All good? Okay. Before Shabbos begins, one lights candles. This is to evoke an atmosphere of tranquility in the home, make Shabbos more pleasurable. Also, one of the ways which we honor Shabbos and demonstrate its importance. It's interesting to note that, you guys know the name Pictionary? Is that still around? Right? So if we're playing Pictionary and what I want you to guess is Shabbos, so then chances are, if I could draw, I would draw Shabbos candles, right? That is probably that or a challah, but Shabbos candles certainly is what represents Shabbos to us. Interestingly enough, that is a rabbinic institution, right? It's not min Torah, right? That was rabbinically instituted, right? The reason being shalom bayit. Shalom bayit is the domestic tranquility, that the home being a beautiful, warm, inviting place. It's also interesting to note that the Karaites, we discussed them before, the Karaites, the Tzedukim, those are people, a break-off sect from Judaism, which never accepted the rabbinic, the Torah Shebaal Peh, the oral Torah, right? So there they take the Torah literally, and the pasuk says there should not be burning any lights in your homes. And therefore for them, their Shabbos is cold and dark. That's what their Shabbos is. Our Shabbos is warm and beautiful, warm and illuminated. Okay? The mitzvah requires the candles be lit in the room where Shabbos meal will be served. Right? Upon lighting the candles, one recites the blessing of a candle lighting. We'll see all that. Other rooms in the house which will be used must have sufficient light too. Okay? So we don't light candles throughout the house. That would end up being a bit of a fire hazard and unnecessary. But we leave some lights on or have Shabbos lamps, whatever we do, right? So that we're not stumbling around and hurting ourselves or anyone else along the process. Okay, the woman of the house lights the candles. The mitzvah is principally the woman's, right? Every member of the household fulfills the obligation by the woman doing the candle lighting, right? It's commendable for the husband to place candles in the candlesticks and prepare them for lighting. That's what I usually try to do. I try to do that soon after Shabbos. If Natalie is away, then Shabbos candles need to be lit, and I will light the Shabbos candles. Okay. From the moment a woman lights the candles, she must observe the sanctity of Shabbat and refrain from doing work. Okay? Now, there is a little caveat, right? Let's say you're going to be lighting candles, but then you're lighting candles at home, then you want to get to shul. Okay? So during these weeks now, that's not an option. If you come to shul Friday night, you'll have to light in shul, because we can only bring in Shabbos so early, right? And before 6:15 right now in these summer months now is too early to bring in Shabbos, okay? But let's say during the winter, right, lighting candles, and you want to drive to shul, right? And then of course you walk home afterwards. So there a condition can be made that even though I'm lighting candles, I'm not accepting Shabbat along with the lighting of the candles. Okay? A condition can be made. Short of that, once the candles are lit, Shabbos has entered. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
So I believe I read somewhere where you should light wherever you're staying, sleeping, right?
Yes.
So how would that work if I wanted to come to Shabbat and I light here, but then I would have nothing lit at home?
Correct. And that would still be okay. Right? In other words, in those situations, you light, right? You want to light in a place where you'll get some benefit from it. Okay? Now, right, in those situations, you might want to light some candles before you come, right? Not making a bracha on it. And those will not be your official Shabbos candles, but that way when you go back home and you sit to the meal, it'll feel like Shabbos, right? That's something that you could do, and it might be a nice thing to do that, so that you would feel it feels like Shabbos, right? But yes, in different situations, one, at hotels, everyone lights out. You can't light in the rooms. So ideally, you want to light where you're going to be eating, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you're eating in someone else's house, so you might go there before Shabbos and light over there, right? Yeah. So those are all. But even lighting here, you're right, Orly, that it's not ideal, right? But it is acceptable. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
And like, say for instance, like and being in the hospital, the little LED lights are okay.
Yes. Okay. So if a person is in the hospital, so then one would light electric. You can't light oxygen in the hospital. You're not lighting any candles over there, right? So there, LED. Ideally, if you have incandescent, those are better, right? Because that's more of a fire than LED, which is just emitting a little electrical blip, whatever it does, right? And yes, and a bracha can be made on those electric candles when one cannot light properly with proper candles. Yes, that is correct. Okay, now typically, page 51, typically, whenever we are making a bracha for a mitzvah, so we first make the bracha and then we do the mitzvah. That's how it's always done. I shouldn't say always, with a number of exceptions. One exception is the Shabbos candles. The reason being that once you make the bracha, right, so then you are accepting Shabbos at that point. So once you made the bracha and accepted Shabbos, what can't you do? You can't light the candles. Okay? So we have a catch-22 situation over here. So what we do is you light the candles, you cover your eyes, you make the bracha, and then you open your eyes. What does that accomplish? What does that accomplish?
Not deriving benefit from the light.
Okay, say it again, Shelby.
Not deriving benefit from the light.
Good, right? The mitzvah is to light the candles and to derive benefit from the candles. So if I've lit the candles, but I've not yet gotten benefit from it, I'm still in the midst of doing that mitzvah. So granted, I'm not making the blessing before I start the mitzvah, but I am making the bracha before I have completed the mitzvah. And that's why, right, we cover our eyes, don't get benefit, make the bracha, get the benefit and enjoy. In a similar way, when we're washing our hands, netilat yadayim, for a bread meal, right? So again, we should make the blessing that commanded us al netilat yadayim, on the washing of the hands, and then we should wash our hands. That's not what we do. What do? We first wash our hands, then before drying the hands, we make the bracha. Why is that? Well, we want our hands to be purified when we're making a bracha. So that's why we don't do it right beforehand. But don't dry your hands. Why not? Because drying the hands is part of the mitzvah of washing the hands. So as long as you have not yet dried your hands, you are still in the midst of the mitzvah. So once again, similar to the candle lighting, you're not doing it prior to beginning, but you're making sure not to do it once you've already completed. Therefore, the bracha is made, right, before your hands are dried. Similarly, a third example, when a woman goes to the mikvah. So there a woman will first immerse in the mikvah, come on out, make the bracha. That's how Ashkenazim do it. Sephardic women just make the bracha and then go in. Ashkenazi women will immerse, come out, make the bracha, and then immerse again. Okay, so that's how that is done. Now, on Yom Tov, finish my thought. Well, it could be switched. Why could it be switched? On Yom Tov, feasibly, you could make the blessing and then light the flame from an existing flame. Why could you do that? Because on Yom Tov, right, if the blessing ushers in Shabbos, well, you can't light anything on Shabbos. You can't even pass a flame on Shabbos. But if the blessing ushers in Yom Tov, you can pass a flame on Yom Tov. However, the custom is that even on Yom Tov, the woman first lights, covers her eyes, makes the bracha, and then opens her eyes. Okay? Yom Tov is any holiday. Let's say Shavuot's coming up next week, right? Next week we have Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday, holiday of Shavuot, right? So you light candles on Friday night. There, right before Yom Tov starts, you could strike the match, but you want to have a 2-day candle burning so that you'll have what to light on Monday night, right, for Yom Tov. So there, feasibly, you could make the bracha and then light, but the custom is, even on Yom Tov, the woman first lights and then makes the bracha. A man is not automatically accepting Shabbos with his bracha, and therefore, when a man is lighting Shabbos candles, he first makes the bracha and then lights, as is the usual pattern in a bracha that we make on a mitzvah. Okay, clear? Good? Okay. How many candles are lit? Many women light 2 candles corresponding to the words Zachor and Shamor, which are the 2 ways that Shabbos is expressed during at the time of Matan Torah, right? These 2 words begin the 2 verses in the Torah regarding Shabbat. Remember the Shabbos to sanctify it. Observe the Shabbos day to sanctify it. Both verses were said by God at the revelation at Mount Sinai. That's one of these things that we sing about on Friday night. Shamor v'Zachor b'dibur echad. That Shamor and Zachor, those 2 words, were said simultaneously on Sinai. Obviously, we can't pull that off, but God could. Okay. Other women light more than 2 candles. Many have the custom, now you brought up, to light candles corresponding to the number of members in their immediate family. Right? Natalie lights for all the kids and for the grandkids and for also there are 2 students that we were very close to years and years and years ago, and they bought her candlesticks, and so it's very nice. I said, well, we want you to light candles for us each Shabbos because we'll be traveling a lot. So since then, she has been lighting candles probably about 30 years at this point. Yeah. I'm going to send them a bill for the candles at some point. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How the candles are lit. Okay. All right. Right. Woman that open a window or door if the wind is strong enough to blow out the candles. That goes back to a psik resha. If opening the doors is going to cause the candles to be blown out, then you don't want to move that. Okay, if the lit candles are to remain on the table where the Shabbos meals are eaten, some place a candle on the table, a challah, before lighting, right? Okay, so the candles are going to become muktzah, right? No purpose for Shabbos, right? So it's best not to light on the table, unless you have a big table you want light at the end and then be able to clear off over here. But I think it's best to have a table or a shelf where you light, right, a cart, whatever it is, where you light the Shabbos candles, and that way there's no issue of moving it around or the muktzah. Okay, that will also be muktzah. Yeah, that will also be muktzah. Okay, we mentioned last time that the candle lighting is one of the 3 mitzvot that are special for the women: candlelighting, separating challah, and mikvah, and family purity. And that's why there is a beautiful Yehi Ratzon, supplication, that accompanies each of these mitzvot, whether it's challah being taken off from the dough or the Shabbos candles, and that is a time. That is a time of lighting Shabbos candles, to pray for those who are not yet married, to pray for a good marriage, to pray for family, for children, all these things. That is a very, very special time for prayer. For that, there is, and the Siddur, I'm sure, has the beautiful prayer. The Siddur would have it. With all these things, it's always good to also to personalize it for yourself, to make it your prayer, to use this as a base, but then go off on it. Make it you and God having a conversation. Yeah, on page 296 in the Siddur, we have the candles for the brothers for candle. Maybe you will show my God, Father, show me, my husband, sons, daughter, whatever the situation is. All my relatives, you grant us in all Israel a good long life. Remember us with a beneficent memory and blessing. Consider us consideration for salvation, compassion. Bless us with great blessings. You make our households complete. You cause presence to dwell among us. Privilege me to raise children and grandchildren who are wise and understanding, who love God and fear God, people of truth, holy offspring attached to God, who illuminate the world with Torah and good deeds, with every labor in the service of the Creator. Please hear my supplication at this time. In the merit of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, our matriarchs, cause our light to illuminate, that it not be extinguished forever, and let your countenance shine so that we be saved. Amen. Okay, so a beautiful tefillah. Yeah, so you want to take advantage of that opportune time for a tefillah. Okay, laws of candlelighting for a guest who will be sleeping in his own place. Person sleeping at home who intends to eat Friday meal in another place should light the Shabbos candles in their home if they can, right? If you're going to be getting home at the point where the candles will be out already, then it'll probably be better to light where you're eating, because that way you'll be getting some benefit from it, right? A guest who is given a room of his own to sleep in should light candles in that room, even if his wife is lighting candles at home. Okay, anyone who lights candles in a room where he will not be eating must use large candles low enough to benefit from the light when he returns to his room to sleep. Again, nowadays we're not lighting candles in the bedrooms, right? A little bit, right? So, a person is a guest staying there, so either one would light, or one would give a little bit of money to the family to buy a share of the candles. Okay. Yeah, here it is. 56. A guest who has no someone sleeping should join his host's candlelight by giving a token sum to cover his portion of the candles, right? Or the host may, as a gift, designate a portion of the candles as the guests, right? If the guest's wife is leading candles at home, he will not be present for Shabbos. He does not have to share. Okay. That's 57. A number of people lighting in one room, right? Each one recites or lights on candles, recites the blessings. Okay. Got some of the Sephardim. We'll skip that. The number of men sharing accommodations. Okay. All right. Not so coming up. Okay. 58. Okay. How long is Shabbos? 25 hours. How long is a day? 24 hours. So how do we get to 25 hours? So, sorry? Okay, so why doesn't it start with nightfall? Or if it starts with sunset, why doesn't it end with sunset? Make up your mind. Be consistent. So why is it 25 hours?
Hashem started the day with darkness.
Okay, so let's wait till it gets dark. In other words, whenever the day begins and ends, it should begin and end the same time on Friday as Saturday. And that should give us basically a 24-hour day. There is an area, a period of time called Bein Hashmashot. We'll call that dusk. Okay? That is the period between sunset and stars out. Right? sunset, the sun is set, it's still pretty light outside, but the sun is now dipped down beyond the horizon. That is a suffix, a doubtful time. Is it day or is it night? Before the sun sets, absolute day. Once it's dark enough that you can see 3 medium-sized stars, absolute night. The time between that is a suffix. That is typically 42 minutes. Okay? 42 minutes, give or take, that's 42, let's say 42 minutes. On average, that's 42 minutes. Therefore, being that this time of Bein Hashmashot, this dusk period, we're not sure is it day or is it night. So comes Friday, we have to say, it might be night. So Shabbos has to begin before that, not to do any malacha, any Shabbat prohibited activities once the sun sets. On Saturday, now the sun has set, maybe it's still day. And therefore, we can't end until stars out, until definite night. So we start Shabbos while it's still definite day, before we reach that questionable time period, and we only end Shabbos when it's definitely night, once that questionable time period has passed. That gives us almost 25 hours. It gives us 24 hours and 42 minutes. So where do we get the 25 hours from? Well, we don't want to have Shabbos candle lighting exactly at sunset, because all of a sudden, right, you have a bad cough, and next thing you know, right, it's already sunset, right? So therefore, the typical custom that we have is 18 minutes before sunset. That is the time on our calendars, on the Bet Jacob calendar, on all calendars, that is the time that is set for candle lighting. Now, but you actually have more time after that, right? So if you're running a little bit late, as long as you are not hitting 18 minutes, you are fine. Now, there is a nice app that my son-in-law made. I'm a fan of it, right? It's Shabbat times, 2 candles like that, right? Shabbat times, and that will give you, right, for wherever you are. So we put in we have kids in Florida, in Israel, New York, in Denver, and Washington. So we put in all the times, so that way we know what time Shabbos comes in, all those places. And there you have candle lighting, the candles, or you could also hit the sundown, right? And there'll be 18-minute difference between the two. So that way you know when candle lighting is and when the sunset is. Okay? So that's how we get to our 25 hours, basically. 18:42, that's an extra hour, and that's you got it. Nice.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
About the Shabbat candle lighting and all that. Was it came from the oral Torah, the custom, or is it?
Yes, it's rabbinic oral Torah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it Moses told us?
So, okay, the oral Torah will include explanations of what the Torah says that was given to Moses on Sinai, Moshe on Har Sinai, Mount Sinai. Also includes that which the rabbis added on at different times. Exactly when, right, candle lighting, I would imagine, was added on at a later time.
Okay.
Right, and not Moshe Sinai. That's what I would imagine. Okay, so that's page 58. Shabbos which begins at sunset. We need to add on to the holy from the ordinary to refrain doing work from sometime before sunset. Okay, this is called Tosefet Shabbos, adding on, right? And therefore, the candlelight times listed include Tosefet Shabbos. If one did not light candles on time and sunset is imminent, one may no longer light the candles. This is a form of work which cannot be done on Shabbos. But if you're after, but the 18th, but it's not, right? You missed the Shabbos time, but you're 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in, so you're still clearly before sunset, the 18 minutes, then one would go ahead and light. Typically, it's 18 minutes. In Yerushalayim, candle lighting is 40 minutes before Shkia. That's the custom in Jerusalem, Yerushalayim.
You
Okay.
should be lighting the candles for 40 minutes.
Only in Yerushalayim.
Oh,
Don't worry about over here. Here, follow the calendar. That's the 18 minutes. Okay, good. With that, we conclude that chapter, and we will pick up. Next week is Yom Tov, so we'll have to pick up the week after that. Yeah.
where do we get? Do you sell this book here, or do we need to order it from Amazon?
Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have access.
Sorry about
Yeah.
that. I was like.
Okay. Good night, everybody over there. I think I just froze. There we go. Good night, Ori, Marasia, Ryan, and Brooke and Aaron.